Hey, good morning. It's Sunday morning at 11 o'clock here in California. And good afternoon to all points east. And if you're in Europe or Africa, good evening. After that, you're probably asleep. Today's class 13, and we're almost at the end of May. Tomorrow's Memorial Day, beginning of summer. And I hope you enjoy your holiday weekend, and I really appreciate you taking time to be with us today. I have always admired people who listen to my radio show, who come to my, what used to be in the pre-COVID days, public seminars and workshops, and now online. Of all the things that you could be doing with your time, you've chosen to dedicate 90 minutes to be with us today, and I so admire that. Not because, I was going to say my ego loves it, of course, but that's not the point. It's that in what seem to be such dark and desperate times, that there are people who are really interested in being virtuous. And that comes from, it's not a sense of superiority, obviously. It's a very humbling thing to make your life about understanding yourself. Part of what I'd like to talk about today is moving from self-centered to selfless. But the word self is still in there, right? And indeed, that's what we've been talking about for the last several weeks now, the nature of the self and identity. And we're going to continue that today. I'm going to introduce a new concept. The last few weeks we've talked about the Buddhist concept of emptiness. We've talked about the concept in Eastern philosophy of non-attachment, and related it even to the idea of personal responsibility that we hear about in personal development and self-help work in the West, to be responsible, to take ownership. Well, to take ownership of what? And what do we mean by non-attachment? What do we mean by emptiness? These are difficult concepts to get your brain around. It's like I can say, you're not the car you drive, though we know people who believe they are. You're not the house you live in, though some people live in mansions, not because they need the room, but to impress others. You're not the clothing you wear. We all know people who say, well, you got to dress for success, and certainly appearance is important, but it's not reality. Appearance is very different from reality. It's just an appearance. So it has significance. You don't want to present yourself in an unappealing way, but you are so much more than that, don't you see? You're also more than the fleshy sack of meat that walks around on this earth. And this is sort of what's called in philosophy the via negativa. When you eliminate all these things that we know we are not, what's left? What remains? And that's what we've been talking about, and I'll touch on a little bit today as we move deeper into emotional intelligence as a portal to spirituality. Having said that, let's start our opening meditation. So if you get comfortable in your chairs, or who knows, some of you may be on meditation pillows, and assume the position, which is sitting up straight. I feel a sneeze coming on. Excuse me. The meditation teacher sneezed. Thank you. Sitting up straight but not rigid. Right? That's the important thing. So balance is what we're looking for. Feet flat on the floor, shoulders back, open your rib cage, lift your chin just a little bit, and get a sense of being balanced and centered. And close your eyes and welcome whatever feeling you feel. If you feel comfortable, welcome in the comfort. If you feel uncomfortable, welcome that in too. Resist nothing. Let life have its way with you. Any emotional feelings that you feel, welcome them in. You see, peace and happiness is not a condition. It's a permanent state that does not need to be attained. It lives always in the center of your being. What's that you say? Peace and happiness? Yes. It dwells within you. It is your nature. And so you can be peacefully happy and content, even if you don't feel well. Just allow yourself to sit with that idea. As you take 2 or 3 nice, slow, deep breaths at your own pace, in your own timing, filling your lungs fully with a nice, big, deep breath, pause for a beat, and as you exhale slowly, create and sense a letting go feeling. Pulling in strength and power as you inhale. And the exhalation is like a sigh of relief or a sigh of release. Feel the letting go. And as you finish that 3rd breath, just let go of the deliberate breathing and gently lift your awareness to the bottom of your nose and watch your body breathe itself for a few moments. Bring to mind your awareness that without your intervention, without your participation, the body breathes itself. Stand back and watch that happen. This is non-attachment. You say to yourself silently and internally, I'm not the breather. I am the awareness that watches. And let it go. Trust that your body will breathe itself. Trust that your body knows what it's doing. Remind yourself there is an innate intelligence that beats your heart, digests food, manages the immune system, pulse, blood pressure, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of other reactions and responses, all managed for you, freeing us to be aware. This type of meditation is called Vipassana, or insight meditation. And it is a practice that leads to an ability to watch your thoughts and feelings without being the thinker. This is not a meditation about concentration. So please do not admonish yourself when you find yourself distracted by a random thought or an emotional feeling swells, or a physical sensation attracts your attention. The point of this meditation is simply to be aware when that happens. And as you sit quietly, things will slow. The mind petitioning you for your attention will slow. In time, the gaps between those distracting thoughts will expand. And you'll feel more at peace. Peace is the birthplace of happiness. Joy, which is happiness for no reason. To become like little children, who, though they may have their temper tantrums from time to time, for they are little children, they are, for the most part, happy for no reason. You may reflect for a moment on where in the world we got the idea that we needed a reason to be happy and at peace. For in fact, anytime we wish, we can simply let go of everything that is not happiness, peace, love, and kindness. And experience the natural state of deep and abiding peace. Enjoy that feeling for a few moments. And as thoughts and feelings swirl around you, attempting to distract you from the simple intention of being happy and peaceful. Pay them no mind. You need not go there. Imagine sitting in a chair or on a bench in the train station, watching the trains come and go. And you decide not to get on board any of them. Train comes in, passengers get off, new passengers get on, the train leaves, and you just sat there, watched it all happen, had no need to get on board. Oh, here comes another train of thoughts. You may not even know where that train is going, so why get on board? Stay right where you are. And watch the others scurry about. With peace and love in your heart. A little smile on your face, just the slightest upturn in the corners of your mouth. To let it be, whatever it is. And to practice watching. Just watching. Without any judgment. Without any right or wrong. No good or bad. No winners or losers. Just experiencing what a nice day it is as you sit on the bench, perfectly content. And then begin, I'd like to suggest, to appreciate what a gift this is. To look around and be aware. To notice the beautiful, puffy, feathery, billowy clouds slowly moving across a blue sky on a warm day. What a joy to be able to just sit there and feel the gentle warmth of the sun on your face and your arms. Not too hot, just right. And the gentle breezes blowing through your hair and across your face. And the fragrances of nature. As in your mind's eye, you find yourself in a beautiful place of perfect peace, perhaps a well-manicured garden, a lush landscape, or a gentle wilderness. And there's no place you need to go but right here, right now. And there's nothing else you'd rather be doing. But enjoying this peace that we so often crave. And yet here it is. You didn't have to get in the car and drive 100 miles. It's right here. It's been with you all along. When we let go, simply drop everything else. And this promotes insight and understanding. Instead of being the problem or having a problem or feeling sometimes as if the problem has us in its grips, you can simply ponder from afar in this place of perfect peace the situation that you've been calling a problem. You can walk all around it, look at it from new and different angles, and refuse to feel that it's got you in its grips, but instead, it's just another channel on the television. It's just another app on your phone. And you can watch it, and you can learn from it, you can study it without being in it or without getting it all over you. Problems do not exist in the world. The world does not have problems. People have problems. Do the flowers have problems? The fruit trees? The willow? The grasses? Do the animals have problems? Do they worry and fret? Wring their hands? Wonder, why me? And still, we've learned to ruminate. Someone has taught us to worry. To be fearful. Someone is offering us a rope, not to lift us up, but to play tug of war. They want to win, and you don't want to lose. So you pull back, because in order to win, they must lose. And you find yourself trapped in the subject-object split. There's you and everything out there that's not you. Really? What if everything out there is you? What if everything out there is a reflection of your awareness, of your consciousness? such that two or more people see the same circumstance in very different ways. How could that be? Is one of them right and all the others wrong? More judgment. Consider that being the watcher, the observer, of even your thoughts and feelings, much less your behavior and that of others, is an extraordinary power. To take a breath, to relax, to step back, and be ever so slow to react. Gives you choices, options you may not otherwise have considered. A simple example, when you don't know what to say, consider saying nothing. There's an idea for you. When you don't know what to do, why rush to do something? Who put that on you? Be slow. It's your life. Appreciate just how rich, how beautiful, how rewarding it can be. And this is before we've even begun to help others, to give to others, to be of service. Bring this relaxed and peaceful state with you, the sense of safety and happiness, for no reason. As you reorient yourself toward the waking state, remember where you are. Feel yourself in your body. Feel the chair supporting you, the floor beneath your feet. Take a nice, slow, deep breath, inhaling, big breath, inhaling. Hold for a peak. And as you exhale, open your eyes, wide awake, back in the room. Wide awake, back in the room. Feeling fine, rested, refreshed, and I like to stretch a little bit after one of those. Maybe shake it off a little bit, sort of wake my body up. I thought we were going to sleep. Isn't it odd that wide awake comes from going in the direction of sleep? You were just much more awake with your eyes closed than you were before we began that. So good morning, good afternoon. This is the awakening. Woke does not mean having certain political positions. It's not what the awakening is about. It's about awakening from a dream. Look around you. We love these people, many of them. We're trying to love them all in spite of their humanness, their frailties. What are we doing? Why are we doing it? What's the whole point of this? Most people are sleepwalking zombies. You gotta love them. But don't you want to sometimes reach out and just take them by the arms and gently shake them to see if you could wake them up a little bit? Like, why is this not apparent to you that there's a great evil upon this land. And this is not a matter of judging things as good or bad, right or wrong. We inherently know what it is to be cruel or mean or simply indecent, to say hurtful things. Maybe because you hurt and you want other people to hurt the way you hurt. Or you hold a grudge and you're going to carry pain as a way of punishing someone else. It's an odd strategy, isn't it? To punish you for what you've done to me, I'm going to torment myself. We obsess on the stimulus. We believe there's some objective world out there that's being done to us. And I'd really strongly like to suggest, and I know you're on board with wanting to understand this, that's why you're here, that there is no objective world out there that's being done to you. This, again, is one reason that emotional intelligence is such a beautiful beginning to the idea of spiritual unfoldment, is the ownership of your life, personal responsibility. And again, we've called that non-attachment. You don't have to hold on. You don't have to get a grip. You don't have to control everything, manage everything out there in the world. Let go. Step back. Let the world be the world. Let it do what it's doing. There are extreme examples, if someone attacks you physically, you can get off your meditation pillow and defend yourself. Let's not be silly, if a lion attacks you, might be a good idea to run. We're not being silly about this. But 99.999% of the time, you're safe. You're incredibly safe. You're remarkably safe. You are safer. We are safer now on this planet than human beings have ever been in their 3 million years of existence. It's hard to believe when you watch the news and learn about the reality of children being shot in their classroom, little kids, or war in Ukraine. It's just incomprehensible. But this is the behavior of zombies, of sleepwalkers, of people who've been sold the idea that the external, physically dense world is an objective reality. We can weigh it, we can measure it. Science is real. There are laws of physics and principles that are reliable in the external world, but it's not what it appears to be. At the very least, we can agree that each of us has our own perception of it. Doesn't take much reflection to realize each of us is impacted differently by current events, so that life is what you make it. And the same situation, the same circumstance, the same event engenders different feelings in different people. Take me out to the ball game. We're all at the ball game. 30,000, 40,000 people, whatever, sitting in the stands. Everybody's having a unique experience of that ball game. Is there overlap? Yeah, there's probably a lot of overlap. But reality is a matter of individuality. It's what you make of what's done to you that's real. And how can I possibly argue The physical dense world is an illusion, that it's not real, that it's not even substantial. Well, if it were real, if it were true, if it were substantial, it would last, wouldn't it? What do you know that lasts? What physical object does not, in time, decay, fall apart, corrode, rust, and rot? Even your ideas fade. The best idea. Better write it down. You might forget it. I have that sneeze. From right field. We were at the ballpark. That came from way out there. Thank you. Not only do physical things fade, rust, and rot, all things pass, your very thoughts fade. Emotions. You've never had an emotion that lasted forever. Your emotions fade. Your body ages, returns to the dust from whence it came. Nothing lasts. How real could it be? If 2 moments in a row, it's different. Everything is in flux. No person steps in the same river twice, for it is not the same river, and this is not the same person. And yet most of us are resistant to change. Most of us, most of the time, do not like change. We're holding on for dear life. Who holds on? Someone who's afraid. What are we afraid of? I don't know. That's what fear is. All holding on is fear. All fear is, I don't know. Fear's not about danger. And even if there was some clear and present danger in front of you, the fear, well, you could call it stress, or I'm just a little nervous or apprehensive, Michael. Don't call it fear. Well, I will. It's all the same. From panic and horror and terror on the high end to, I'm just a little anxious, a little nervous, mildly apprehensive on the other end. It's all the same thing. It's an indication of something unknown, of which you're unaware, something uncertain. Dangerous or not has nothing to do with it. You know, I'm nervous at a job interview, or if I reach back in my memory, those first dates with someone you're really interested in. You don't want to call that anxiety fear? All right, just call it anxiety. Why? Because you're in danger? You know, not only do you not get the job, they shoot you on the way out. Not only are you going to be rejected by the person you're interested in, they're going to kill you? I don't think so. You're not in any danger. You know, performance anxiety at a test in school. There's really no danger here, except the fantasies that we create in our minds. So, all happiness and all suffering exists in the mind. There is no objective world. Something is going on out there, but it's waves of energy, like the ocean. There are waves, there are eddies, there are currents, there are whirlpools. There are actual rivers running through the ocean. But it's still one ocean. I used this allegory a few weeks ago. It bears repeating. It's rich, and you'll encounter it again and again in esoteric literature. Is not the cloud as the water evaporates and goes up into the sky, forming clouds. Does the cloud not have an ocean body? Of course it does. The cloud is of the ocean. So too the raindrop that later becomes rain, snow, sleet, hail. Is it not the ocean? Of course. Now it's a mountain lake, a dewdrop on a flower, sap in a tree, vital fluids in a living body. Now it's a mountain stream, soon a broad river, terrified that it's going to lose its identity as it rushes toward the ocean. It was the ocean all along. And that's what it means to be the I am, that you are the one life all along. You can't go around saying you are God, but you can get you in trouble. But you can know that you're an inalienable, inseparable part of God, and that which is divine and absolute. And that source cannot be rendered, cannot be separated, cannot be divided up. So are the fish separate in an ocean? You could make that argument. They appear to be separate. I don't know that they ever bang into each other. I know they eat each other. So they're not separate when they get eaten by a bigger fish. But even swimming miles apart, they're not separate. They're part of the ocean, the one ocean. That's the way we need to expand our awareness to understand we're part of one thing. And this is the Buddhist idea of emptiness. This is why we suffer when we attach, when we cling, when we hold on to the appearance of things, even thoughts, holding on to a thought or some anxiety-based feeling that we hold on to for dear life, which creates less awareness, less understanding by virtue of the holding on, which creates more fear and more confusion and more fear and more ignorance and more fear. And we hold on to that, but it feels like it's holding on to us, this vicious cycle of fear and ignorance, or because fear is a frightening word and ignorance is an insulting word, you can just call it anxiety and confusion, if you prefer. But understand that it's a vicious cycle that pulls you down. The new term today that I want to add to non-attachment and emptiness, the realization that there is no objective world out there, it's just a holographic projection of your awareness, is advaita. It's a Sanskrit word, thousands and thousands of years old. A-D-A-I-V. No. I gotta visualize this. A-D-V-A-I-T-A. Advaita. A-D-V-A-I-T-A. And Advaita means non-dual, non-duality. Now maybe that is a term you've heard, but you never knew what it meant. Simply, non-duality is the suggestion that the classic subject-object split, hey, there's me, and then there's this world out there. I'm the subject, you're the object. I'm real and you're not, is an error. Descartes talks about this as mind and body, or spirit and matter, or energy and mass, as if these are different things. This is the dualistic split. We have a dualistic worldview. You're either with me or against me. You're a good guy or a bad guy. You're right or you're wrong. Energy does have its polarities. There is a yin and a yang. A peak and a trough. Look at the waves. Peak, trough. Peak, trough. All energy vibrates. Just think of a guitar string, piano string, violin string, whether it's plucked or bowed or in a piano hit with a little hammer, it vibrates. That's called amplitude. How fast it vibrates is frequency. The height and depth of the vibration is amplitude. AM radio, amplitude modulated. FM radio, frequency modulated. Those are the two qualities of anything that vibrates. Well, everything is a vibration. All energy vibrates. But polarities are different from either or in that they're part of one thing. The magnetic field around a bar magnet, for example, there's a north pole and a south pole. The bar magnet has electromagnetic poles and polarities, but there's no point on that bar magnet, no point in the field around that bar magnet that isn't influenced by both poles. Everything is both and, not either or. So when we take the principles of polarity and turn them into these judgmental either-ors, that's where we make the mistake. Do you realize, let me say this better, imagine the enlightenment available as we repeatedly in our lives replace this or that with this and that. When we replace our search for absolutes with an understanding that things are relative. There are some absolutes, but in form, most things are relative. It's sort of a 60-40, 30-70, 90-10, a little of this, a little of that. Any argument, consider that any argument, any position, any belief has some merit of truth in it. You may find it absolutely abhorrent, but there's some element of truth. It might be the tiniest little speck, but more often than not, when we disagree with people, it's a 60-40 or a 70-30 or sometimes a 90-10 if you really want to get it. You understand what I'm saying? The example I use in my book is it's 68 degrees in the room, and my friend from Alaska wants to take his shirt off. It's such a balmy, warm day, and my friend from Hawaii asks for a sweater, 68, he's freezing. Is one of them wrong? Somebody's got to be right. It's warm in here or it's cold in here. Who's right? One of them, they can't both be wrong, could they? I guess they could both be wrong. But usually if I'm involved, then I'm the one that's right. And if you disagree, it's wrong. That's dualism. That's a breeding ground for pain and suffering. Why not just acknowledge? Yeah, I get that you find it cool in here. I find it rather warm, actually. We disagree. Agree to disagree. What's the absolute? The absolute is that it's 68 degrees. But reality, as far as most people are concerned, is made up of the relativity of, to me that's warm. No, I'm sorry. To me, that's cool. Well, you're wrong. No, you're wrong. And out of that comes war and murder, right? because we think there's something objective and true about the physical dense world when it's all malleable. It's plastic. So non-duality, advaita, is a third way now. A fourth, if you consider it that we sort of added personal responsibility to the mix. But it's basically Buddhist emptiness, the idea of non-attachment, and now non-duality or advaita. Another way of saying, well, it's just all one thing. We're all a pie slice of the one big pie. We're all a little sliver of this one whole thing. Nothing is separate except in appearance. And that changes the way we look at things. That provides a depth of understanding, a quality of understanding of peace and happiness. It basically says you already have what you're looking for. You always have had what you're looking for. Peace, love, joy, happiness. In fact, not only do you have it, you are that. That's what you are.
Michael, that's our little 5-minute warning. It's 11:55.
Thank you. I remember Pamela asked last week or the week before, she said, well, what do I say if somebody asks me who I am? I can't go around saying I'm God. I'm going to get strange looks if I say, oh, I am awareness from a particular point of view. This has always been a challenge to people. In the Old Testament, when Moses heard the voice of God in the burning bush, God says, I am. Moses said, who shall I say? Give me these 10 commandments. And he heard, I am that I am. I am the great I am. Who are you talking about when you say I? Again, it's not the house you live in. It's not the car you drive. It's not the job, or whether you have more credit cards in your wallet than I do. It's not the clothing or the jewelry. It's not even your health. You can be happy while you're sick. You can be unhappy when you're perfectly well and fit. Same thing with being rich. You can be loaded and unhappy. Most of the people that fight the wars are among the richest people. Putin is probably the richest person in the world. He is probably, by all accounts, a trillionaire. All right? 1,000 million is a billion. 1,000 billion, 1,000 million is a trillion. That's probably how much money he has. I don't mean I'm just pulling it out of the air. That's what I've read in rather eminent, incredible financial journals about how much money he's stolen. He's not happy. He got $1 trillion. He's not happy. Bush and Cheney and Rumsfeld that invaded Iraq the same way Putin's invading Ukraine on the false premise of weapons of mass destruction are all multi-millionaires. Well, Rumsfeld's dead now. Cheney's still alive. Bush is still alive. There were multi-millionaires with grandchildren. And they went out and started a war on a lie. They obviously are not happy. Money didn't do it for them. Health doesn't do it. These things are important. It's nice to have some money. There's a certain Zen-like peace that goes with having a savings account, or a modest portfolio. And to be healthy is, what can you say about the importance of having good health? But that's not who you are. You are so much more than that. So you are the I am. I watched a video with Rupert Spira. I don't know if you know this guy. He's an absolutely brilliant speaker on non-duality and advaita. Studied with some of the great masters. Rupert Spira, S-P-I-R-A. And he said, stand up and take a step toward yourself. It's impossible. It's like looking at the back of your head or biting down on your teeth. Well, your teeth could bite down, but, you can't get a bite on the teeth. We need to keep stepping back until we get this idea that, I am a manifestation of the one thing. What did Christ say? The Father and I are one. That doesn't mean he's the Son of God. It means you're all children of God. I'm not the only son. These things I do, you can do and more. They don't tell you that in church, but it's in the book. Read the red letters. These things I do, you can do and more. I am the I am. Thou art that. And that, and that, and that, and that, and that, and that. And there's your homework project, spending the rest of your life studying the way the mind works, that you might find a better sense of identity and enjoy the blissful, ecstatic peace and grace and elegance, joy that's available to you, and that we then share with others as you become fearless and go out and comfort others with just a little bit of loving kindness. It's going to be okay. Things will work out. I'm sorry about your suffering, Or just sitting quietly, like I said. Sometimes the best thing you can do is just shut up and listen. Oh, but I don't know what to say. Then don't say anything. Just sit there and say, I'm here for you. Tell me how you feel. Tell me more. And sit with that discomfort. Anytime you're really uncomfortable with something someone's saying to you, rub your hands together and say, oh boy, this is terrifying the bejesus out of me. I'm so uncomfortable, I just want to get up and run. That's an invitation to sit and let it come into you. You're not a weakling. You're not a physical being. You're a spiritual warrior. You're made for this. Let it in. You are the love and the light. Let it in. Dare it. And then rip the mask off and say, show me who you really are. This silly Halloween costume that you present to me of sickness and death and nobody's going to like me and my friends, what'll they think? And I'm so insecure in my job and housing problems and what'll I do? What'll I do? What you can do is trust the universe. You have to be reasonable, have to be rational. There's a lot of common sense here. Common sense is not so common, is it? Breathe and relax. A way will be found. The universe will support you. You are the universe. Why would it not support you? It's on your side, unless you have fear and anger and hatred and cruelty in your heart, unless you believe you live in an either-or world and you're determined to be the winner and allow others to lose.
Michael,
Yeah.
I love you. And it's noon, and you'll be happy to hear we have a couple of very juicy questions if you want to transition to that segment.
Yeah, timing's perfect. Thank you.
Okay, so the first thing that came up in the chat box early in our discussion was from Gene. And he says, my question for Michael, I have been thinking a lot about the concept of manifestation and manifesting the life that we want to have. So this line really resonated with me. Worrying is like praying for what you don't want. So then I found myself worrying about not worrying, which is, do you have any tips or strategies we can use to keep us from inadvertently or unintentionally manifesting manifesting what we don't want to bring into our lives? And Jean, if that doesn't sum it up, I invite you to speak up.
You want to expand on that, Gene?
No, it's pretty much it's like the saying, the universe is waiting to say yes, but it's also there to give you what you project. So if you're worrying about not having enough money, you're projecting the lack into the universe, and you'll get more lack.
Right.
So I find myself almost worrying about not worrying. Like, am I inadvertently or mistakenly manifesting things because I'm just not able to do it properly, or I'm just, I want to avoid manifesting what I don't want because I'm too busy worrying about things.
Yeah. I have a process that I teach my private clients called Worry Once. And Worry Once addresses this concern. It's it's a legitimate concern to worry about worrying. It's like I think it's in this Tuesday's radio show, which I really encourage you folks to listen to, with Paul Levy, or maybe it's Levy, I've forgotten now, Levy, Paul Levy. He's written a couple of books about what he calls Watiko. And that's, I'll let you listen to it, but that's the evil spirit or the demon, the false self, the shadow side. And I was talking to him about this concept of desire and how we should not desire, but desiring not to desire is a desire. And so you got sort of the same thing on the other side of the equation, so I guess this is the ultimate catch-22, right? That's what a catch-22 is. Worry once is the way I handle it, Gene, and that means when I feel a concern that I'm not able to put down or release, it just sort of clings to me and demands further study. I just take it to the wall and consider what's the worst. Will I die? Will someone I love die? Okay, no? Well, what is the worst? Well, it might be pretty ugly if you really go to the ultimate. Without a lot of, twisting and turning, a lot of convolutions and variations and permutations. Just take it out. First impression, what's the worst thing that could happen? What would you do? Like these people who, in the Midwest and South, living their life happily, and one day a tornado comes through and the whole town is gone. Everything. Their lives, all their photographs, everything, all their furniture, everything that has value is disappeared. Everything that has sentimental value is gone. They're devastated. What are they going to do? It's that kind of thing. What would you do? Well, you would survive. But how would I manage that? And you don't have to spend hours on this. You can do it in a minute or two or less. Just, I guess what I do is this. All right, now you've dispatched it. Let it go. Because that's not very likely to happen. What you were worried about was all the variations leading up to that, all the different ways your life could go south. There's a part, there's a liar in your brain that says worry and fear is a way to be careful. But you've already said, well, energy follows thought. So if I dwell on something negative and have a strong feeling about it, I'm going to manifest it. Whether it's, oh boy, I really want this, or oh no, I'm terrified of this. A specific image, thought, with a strong passion, whether it's oh boy or oh no, love it or fear it, right? Or hate it, that's going to manifest. So we can't afford the luxury of dwelling on all this negativity. We can't allow ourselves to ruminate with negative, unanswerable questions. So worry once, consider what you would do in the worst case scenario, then let it go and put your attention on the positive goals, not on how to get there. So much worry can be eliminated when you admit that you don't know how you're going to get there, get it, or make it happen. You don't need to. Leave that to the universe. What you need to know is what there is. Do I know what I want? Have a goal in mind. Stephen Covey says, begin with the end in mind. You and I can jump in the car and drive to New York without knowing how to get there. Every day we point toward New York. And maybe we don't take the shortest route. Maybe we make some mistakes and some detours, and yeah, it would have been a better idea to go this way, but we can get there without knowing how to do it. So get familiar with saying, I don't know how to do it, but I'm going to do it. I don't know how to get there, but I'm going to get there. I don't know how to have this, but I'm going to have it. And as long as I have love in my heart, the universe will conspire to support me. It only turns its back on you when you are cruel or don't care about other people or wish something negative upon them. And then if that voice says, yeah, but Gene, you haven't thought about all these other ways that your life could fall apart. I think we need to prepare for the likelihood that there are a bunch of other ways that things could go south on you. And you can say, no, I can't afford to do that, because if I dwell on it, I'm planting those seeds. I don't want to plant briars and brambles and thorny bushes in the middle of my nice garden here. So I've already worried about the worst. If I can handle that, I can handle anything short of that. That's the technique. And then you just go back to the positive and knowing you're not alone. Trust the universe. You don't. If you have an acorn, you do not need to know how to grow an oak tree. You open an acorn, you will not find a tiny little oak tree in there. All you need is the seed. Just put it on the ground, step on it, throw a bucket of water on it, and walk away. It will be an oak tree. You don't need to know how to do that. But your goal was, I want an oak tree here. See, all you need is the seed. Thoughts are seeds. Feelings are the nourishment, the water, the sun, the minerals. Okay, worry once. Does that help?
That's excellent. Thank you.
You bet. Hannah?
Yep. Okay, the second one. And also, I just want to say, check the chat box for some information you might find interesting, how to invite people to this course, the Swell Life link, links to Michael's book, and a couple other things are in the chat box for you all. Okay, the next question/comment is from Chris Joseph. And he says, it does not necessarily relate to today's topic, but it's more about what Michael has talked about for many decades, the third way. Americans have fallen into tribal politics, I believe much more so than in the past. If you're a Republican, Democrats are crazy and authoritarian. If you're a Democrat, Republicans are criminals and racist. Social media exacerbates the divide. All three major cable news channels thrive on the divide. How do we find a way out of this mess? What words of wisdom might you have? And Chris did specify that he would like me to just read the question and didn't have anything to add to it.
Okay, fine. Actually, it does bear on today's introduction of the concept of non-duality. The third way is the path to non-duality. The third way is the path to wholeness. The third way is the middle way. With so much here. If you've ever been to a Masonic auditorium, and it's provided it's set up as it should be, you see on the stage pillars on either side. They even have names, Joaquin and Boaz. They are the extremes. They are the limits of either-orness. The action, of course, takes place in the middle between the pillars. If you look at the tree of life in Kabbalah, there are there are many lines, but there are 3 vertical columns. It's the same thing with the middle way. And then the Sephiroth are these spheres that sit on that tree. And it's an incredibly rich pattern. Even tarot is related to the rediscovery in the Renaissance era of Jewish mysticism around Kabbalah and the Zohar. I like the model of the pendulum, which again is a very rich model. There's a wonderful book called Foucault's Pendulum, or Foucault's Pendulum, by Umberto Eco, who wrote The Name of the Rose. And he goes into this, that the top of the pendulum is fixed and unmoving, like the source of all things, fixed and unmoving. But you go down the string to the plumb, to the weighted end of the pendulum, and if it's lifted a bit and released, it begins to swing. It not only swings back and forth, it actually swings around and around. But whatever direction it swings, the further up the string you go, the less extreme, the less dynamic is its movement, until you get to the very top, a point around which, and remember in geometry, the definition of a point, it's a location that takes up no space. So there's a single point at the top of that pendulum that is fixed and unmoving, which corresponds to divinity. And then the movement, the activity of the pendulum is like this physical world. And it swings widely, this way and that. And you might think that that swing of the pendulum corresponds to good and bad, to right and wrong. But actually, truth is the pendulum hanging silently, quietly, still, calm, perfectly vertical. That's what a plumb is in construction or masonry. It's your vertical line. That's the third way. That's the middle way. That's truth. That's the shortest path to divinity, is that when the pendulum is perfectly still. Such that the wider it swings, the farther away we get from truth. The farther we get from goodness and beauty. and the more false it becomes. So those of us who are out of balance, way out here, momentum carrying us like the pendulum way off to one side until you reach this peak, and then you come rushing back the other way to an equally extreme position on the other side, or it swings around and around clockwise or counterclockwise. It's all beside the point. It's all the activity of the physical world. We could make the argument that the Creator created its creation to experience ignorance. That's worthy of some reflection. The Creator created its creation and populated it with sentient beings to experience ignorance. That ignorance, that fear, might redeem itself through love and understanding. So the way to do that is find this middle, this center, this balance point. The Dalai Lama draws upon the middle way when he sits with China and negotiates, as fruitless as it may seem. And it's created divisions in the Tibetan exile community. Why are you talking to China, who's occupied Tibet, and you were run out of there in 1959 as a boy? Why would you sit and negotiate with the enemy? Why is Zelensky, is that his name? Zelensky in Ukraine, willing to sit with Putin? You have to. That's the middle way. Is the middle way always on the 50-yard line? No. Again, it may be a 70-30 or a 90-10. The pendulum does swing. The middle way is serpentine. You have to, life is dynamic. You have to sometimes go farther this way than you'd like, or farther in this direction than you'd like. But if your goal is to find the truth, goodness, truth, and beauty in the middle, this is not that different from Aristotle and Socrates talking about moderation in all things. Moderation, even in moderation. Don't be too strict in your moderation. So we were talking about worry or desiring not to desire. Don't be too moderate in your moderation. Sometimes you got to party on Garth. But moderation, compromise, conciliation, mediation, healing. I understand how you feel. I don't agree with you. But that makes perfect sense. I get it. I think your view is more shadow than light. And of course, I see my view as being more light than shadow. But I get it. There's some merit in what you say. I'm not willing to kill you over it. I don't feel threatened.
Michael, sorry to interrupt. Chris unmuted himself. Chris, did you want to chime in?
Yeah, Michael, first of all, I appreciate your response. Thank you for that. I'm just wondering, right now, I presume you're preaching to the choir, people who either know this or are learning this or have heard you talk about this. I've heard you talk for decades, and I love listening to you. But how do we enlargen the choir?
Well, that's a good question. That's tough. There are these admonitions about not throwing your pearls before swine. I think that's a bit much. Don't speak to those who don't waste your breath on those who don't have the ears to hear or the eyes to see. You're talking about missionary work in the true sense of the word. How do you reach out? How do you heal that wound? And I really got to put it back on each individual to figure out for yourself how you do that. I would say a musician would do that with music. And a painter would do that with painting. And a poet would do it with poetry. And a novelist would write a great story about healing and expanding. I'm a radio guy, so I do a free Zoom class on Sunday. If you're a nurse, you do it with nursing, or a doctor as with your doctoring. If you're a butcher, a baker, a candlestick maker, you have multiple opportunities in your daily life and affairs to be kind to people and to model. You don't have to persuade to influence. You can just be a model of the kind of person you'd like to see in the world in ever greater numbers. And refuse to take the bait, to become cynical, to throw in the towel. Just changing the way you drive on the freeway, the way you talk to a waitress who just brought you a plate of cold and badly prepared food. He didn't make that. Don't yell at them, right? Increasingly, I see signs. I saw one at my dentist. Please be kind. I saw a similar sign at the drive-thru at Walgreens. Please be kind. Tech support for an application I use in my radio program. Whenever I contact them, there's like in the bottom of their email, please be kind. People are appealing in this dark time. Don't go there. Don't join the cult of hatred and fear and meanness and cruelty and indecency. The best way to promote morality and ethics is to be ethical and moral, I would say. I'm sorry, Chris, that's really the best answer I can give you, and it's frustrating because we want to do more.
I'm holding on to what you said early on in your answer to me, in that it's missionary work. That really resonates with me. Thank you.
Good. Well, we'll leave it at that then. It's a great question. I'm frustrated, and I think a lot of other people who see the potential are very frustrated by the personality cult of evil. But do not make it about partisan politics. Evil is evil. Wickedness is wickedness. Unkindness, indecency, just not caring about other people. There's nothing political about that it invades our politics. What doesn't it invade? It's in all aspects of living. Don't make that political. It's like they're talking about the response to these children being shot again and again and again in schoolrooms is understandably a demand for some common sense gun safety legislation. We have to, by the way, stop calling it gun control. It's just the worst word in the world. These are gun safety, common sense gun laws that we're talking about. And the pro-gun people, the Second Amendment people, especially the guys in the Senate that are getting big checks from the gun lobby, they say, oh, you shouldn't make this political. Well, it's not political. I don't think we're really clear on what politics is, but these are concepts, values that go way beyond politics. Just because they're found in politics, they're found everywhere. So let's not be confused by that and the obsession of the news media on government and politics. There's one reason I stopped doing the news. It's just, I wanted to understand why the world was the way it was, and 4 or 5 years of writing the news taught me that this is not what I'm looking for. So I went to psychology and then philosophy to understand why. Government is not why. Politics is not going to save us. And it's also not the enemy. It's just one manifestation. I think we have time for one more, Hannah, if you have it. Did Hannah leave? Mindy, are you there? Hannah has a commitment at 12:30 and sometimes has to duck out.
I am, but I think we should open it up because I don't have access to see any questions. I don't know if there are any more.
You're not a co-host anymore?
I am, but I think she had them chatted to her and can I see?
Okay, well, let me.
Yeah, I don't, you're right. She said she had to leave. I don't see any, I don't have access to the questions, so maybe anybody else could chime in.
Okay, well, I want to wrap it up here. It's almost 12:30 in California. If you have a question, just unmute your microphone and shout out. There's not that many of us here. Anybody? I'll give you a minute. All right, let me do a 60-second summary here. We've been talking about the Buddhist concept of emptiness. It just means there's no objective reality. The quality of what's outside of you is determined inside of you. We're all living a different dream. We can awaken from the dream. Meditation, study, contemplation, prayer-like states, altered states where you're relaxed, calm, you allow the mind to quiet, will put you in touch with the greater I am. When your thoughts slow and your feelings fade and your activity ceases and yet you remain, that's you, right? Along with that comes certain values and ethics and standards. Be comfortable with that evolution. The purpose of life. I put in the newsletter, that's what I was going to talk about today. The purpose of life is to grow and to evolve. The meaning of life is what you give it, how you go about that growth, that evolution. Do it by following your heart, not your thoughts. Okay? Thoughts are important, but when it comes to knowing yourself, know thyself. Over the oracle to Apollo at Delphi, the oracle to Apollo has inscribed above it, from 4,000 years ago, know thyself. That's Western. And of course, it's found in Confucianism and throughout Eastern philosophy and Middle Eastern philosophy as well. The Sufi said, I looked for myself, I found God. I looked for God and I found myself. Again, Christ, the Father and I are one. We're all part of one thing. We're all one ocean. That's emptiness. Non-attachment, don't hold on, let go. And advaita, non-duality. Again, there's just one thing here. A multiplicity of diverse forms, but all manifested. Just like all colors come from white light. And only when they're scattered through a prism do we see the colors. In Hawaii, they say about ethnicity and race, all from the same rainbow. And the rainbow is all from the same white light, the star, the sun, our sun. Class number 13, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. Join us next week, class number 14. If you can, tell your friends. Have them email me at awmysteryschool@gmail.com, awmysteryschool@gmail.com, so I can put them on the mailing list. But you can share the link. I just want like-minded people. I don't want to argue religion here. I think you know what I'm talking about. With that, unmute, if you would, everybody, and say so long and good day to your friends, and have a beautiful week, and we'll see you next week. Namaste.
Goodbye, everyone.
Bye, everybody. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you,
Bye,
guys.
everyone.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
I think we're still recording.
Yeah, I'm looking for the... Oh, here it is.